Welcome to Desteni Movie Night, and tonight we are discussing the movie Snowpiercer. And we have two guests here, Valentin Rosman from Slovenia
Hi.
and Antoinetta from the United States.
Hello. You disappeared. Hold on. Oh, okay, there you are. Go ahead.
So the Snowpiercer is a movie about train, and people actually are living on a train what must be go on continuously, and apparently they are the last survivors of humanity because of the weather change, and they tried to manipulate the weather, and then it didn't work out, and it really became a ice age, so to speak. And then all of humanity's attention on this train and how people are living in the train, and then they are actually living at the back of the train, and they are quite unsatisfied and angry, and they are trying to figure out a riot and then just break through and move forward. And the plot is about that, and I'm curious about how you guys enjoyed it. Antoinetta?
So the movie was brought to me. My husband said, "Let's watch the movie." So I really enjoyed it, and the first point that clicked into me was how similar the train system was to our system today. And to me, it basically they took what we have today of 1 billion people, and they moved it into a small train of 1,000 people, and they copied it exactly the same. There were things like prison, manipulative education, the poverty and hunger on one side, and the luxury and the nice experiences on the front of the train. And I mean, drug addicts, everything that you would see today was contained in a small train. So that was the first thing that I noticed when I watched the movie.
Yes. Valentin?
Yeah, I also saw this movie as an unrealistic event because, expecting that one train will um, go on and on without stopping is not realistic because everything that moves needs to repair, like wheels and so on, in the train. But there was a cool symbolism. The structure of the train, of the wagons, is a symbolism to the structure of the world global system. So we will be, of course, analyzing this movie from this perspective about how the current global system is structured and how we can change it, improve it in order to bring more equality.
Yes, it's a great point because from the perspective of the tail sections inhabitants, who are the main actor and the other guys, they were basically slaves, and they were living in the dark, and it was really uncomfortable and I guess quite painful and meaningless, so to speak. So they became quite angry, and the only thing what motivated them was really like hate, and nothing was really explained to them. What is this and why these things are going on? So I guess it was easy for sympathize with these guys because they wanted to be like a better. They just wanted to live better, and then I also found this quite analogic with the real life because there are many people who are living in poverty, and it's obvious that they are really has to be angry and unsatisfied. So when these riots are happening in this world, I guess in a way it's understandable, yet not really finding solutions. And can you add something about this anger and hate, Anna?
Yeah. So that was what, like what you said, that's what I noticed as well, is that the guy was hate-driven, he was anger-driven, and they assigned him to be a leader even when he said he didn't want to be a leader. And he had no clear point. His only motivation was me and through the train, reach the front, and kill this guy. So what we realized out through the movie is that the actual riot was a control factor, like that this was their way of making the population go down. So when she says exactly 74% of you are going to die right now, she means, okay, 74% is going to die, and then the balance will be restored, or what they believe it to be a balance for the train of the population. Yeah, so even the riot was a controlled thing. It was something that they had anticipated for happening, because when he got to the front of the train, Wilfred explained to him that he was partners with the older guy in the back of the train, so they had long conversations on the phone, and then basically the tail and the head were working together, so in a way. And then the riot was purposefully given the opportunity to happen until to a certain point. However, what we did notice in the movie is that through the certain point, they didn't, instead of them failing, they actually ended up succeeding forward.
Yes. Valentin, about anger and rioting.
Yeah. Also, in our current global system, people are unsatisfied and they go to the streets and have protests. And of course, also there are some manipulations, because within these riots, people want to protest generally in a peaceful way. But there are some people who are placed from the side of the government in order to infiltrate within the Protestants, and they act very violently, so that the police on the other side has the reason to also use violence, and they then, hurt people and lock them down and so on. So it is a lot of manipulation in this political arena, and people are generally not aware of all these points.
Yeah, I'd say it had a political spin to it, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, in a way it was in the movie as well, because the tail section and the head section was working together, like communication, as you mentioned. And probably the old guy was aware of that. He had to make the inception of the riot with the guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Another symbolism.
No, I was kind of going to get into like the public school system that they had there, where the children were being taught to a very repetitive regime of sort of like putting them a point of fear. If we go outside, we're going to die. If we go outside, we're going to die. And this is what happens to people who try to go against the train, which was portrayed to be like a god. And then, like you were mentioning earlier, the train was a point of like, if something's not working out, blame the train, because that's what the train needs to in order to exist.
Yes, it's like giving away our power and then projecting the responsibility that this is the train and you cannot evade it, because then you'd just die.
Yes, we spoke about the preordained place of everybody and how like they're stuck for life in one place, and like the purpose of the back of the train, even if they didn't realize it was to be slaves, and if they needed something from there, they took the two children, which we find out they were, because the train, like Valentin was saying, something had to be maintained and maintenance, well, the train was actually breaking down at some point because they had to get children in order for it to move the engine.
Yes.
And only the train had to be a certain amount of height in order to fit in. So like they were just taking people from the back. Okay, you're a good violinist. Can you play? Come with us. Can you cook sushi? All right, come with us. You have a new job. You have a new purpose.
Yes, as they use this hand gesture, it was like introduced throughout the movie, and then at the end you understood that as the kid has to do this, taking the mud out from the
Yeah,
engine,
he
so
was
to
doing
speak.
something. I wasn't sure what he was doing. He was doing something. Then the other one was like, if the engine fails, there was like a backup system where the other child came out and he entered in, and I wasn't sure what he was going to do. We don't find out because by that time the train situation changes.
Yes, it was like another kid went into a room. It seemed like control room, so to speak.
Yeah, like manually controlled now, not automatically. Something was failing.
Yes.
We can refer this to our failing system today too.
Yes, and I forgot to mention that this is actually a live discussion, and anyone can ask questions, and we will immediately see them, and we can answer it. So just go on. And returning back to the children point, it was quite a tough moment when how he just told that that babies taste best.
Mm.
And I saw it as kind of an analogy with the word system, what we do and indoctrinate with the kids and systematize and really just we care about our own child and then really neglecting the whole world. And can you add something on this, Valentin?
Yeah, the point firstly within this children classroom, it is I saw it as analogy to indoctrination within our public schooling system, where we are taught about certain information which is not true or not totally true. A lot of information is kept hidden, and also these children are like religious fanatics. This is similar like in the religious system when the people are taught to believe in some God and some higher power and not thus needing to take responsibility for their lives. They are like powerless, so they just need to follow directions. And if you do not follow directions, you will die. Like the people who went out of the train froze to death. This is similar, like to like instilling fear with the hell. So if you will not do this, you will end in the hell in an internal fire. And of course, in our global system, there is a lot of child labor, economic slavery, and also a lot of sex trafficking. A lot of kids are kidnapped. They are used to for tests, for experiments, for to be abused sexually. And I'm sure that some rich people really do use children to eat them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy because this whole human system, as I say, that it was going on since a long time. For me, it was an analogy, not really, but not much as God. For me, it was a bit like consciousness, but we just refer it different names. The same. It's like a lack of. It's like a separate entity from us, and then we just accept it, not question it, and then with the fear of survival, we just keep going on, and they are not really considering the consequences. And what was another note I made? Yes, everyone knows their place except you when they said him to him, and then he was like, he really didn't know what his place. He was just like going forward, And then at the moment he reached at the top of the train, and it was like symbolized with this going on all the time, right? And then he just reached it, and then even he just passed through Mr. Wayfold, and he was just standing there alone. And I really enjoyed the moment when he slowly turned back, and he was completely different man now, because he walked through everything and he saw everything and he knows. And what about you?
So you think he got like a different perspective on
Yes.
the life on train? Because I mean, the guy was explaining to him like, okay, so look, turn around and look at everybody. Look at how violent they are, how disorganized, how chaotic everybody is. You know, things need to be kept in order. So he was basically trying to assign him to be the new Mr. Wilford, like to keep things in order. And he's like, if there's no order, this is what happens. And like, he looks back and there's like chaotic chaos. Which, yeah, in a way, that's true if there's no specific type of order. I mean, things get chaotic, but my thing was that they did not have to design the train. It was a point of inequality, which is what caused people to be chaotic. So if he had just designed the train to be of an equal substance for everyone, they could have, they could have all lived together for those 18 years until the chemical cleared out, and then find a way. I don't know how the train would have ever stopped because it was designed to just move forward. But they could have figured out a way to stop the train and then explore the outside world again. But no, they had to create an ecosystem, which created hate and riots and only not good things.
Yeah, right, because it should have been like educate everyone with the real facts and give the responsibility, so to speak, equally.
Yeah, and I mean, another point that I noticed was, which is a point of a spin-off of politics again, was whoever controlled the water supply controlled the train, which was an interesting thing because everybody, it's a life or death point at that point because they all need water.
Yeah, this is like Monsanto wants to control the food, and in order to have the power.
So they thought that was part of like taking over the train was controlling the water supply. And another thing I noticed was the food they were eating, which how I was writing in the bugs in there, and they got those protein bars. Like they didn't even know what they were eating.
Yes.
Yeah,
it makes you wonder though, you could survive on bugs.
Yeah. This is similar to our to us consumers when we go to the store and we buy products and we do not know how the products were actually made, how much chemicals were used, pesticides and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And we do not supposed to know, like even there are laws that can protect the people who make the food, like
the FDA approval.
Yes.
I don't know if it's still this way, but I think that they can avoid 3% of the contents that they're in a product. They have the right to skip 3% of that, or something. There was some kind of a small percentage that maybe it's 1, maybe it's 3. I'm not exactly sure. But I know that there's a point where if they don't want to put something that's inside the product, they have the right to skip it if it falls within that mark of 1 or 3% of the contents.
Interesting. And what points? I remember the Marsden guys also was like the law enforcement, and they were also just like a placement, and their personality was just like keep the poor back and protect the elite, so to speak. And do you want to talk about this point?
Which who?
You.
Anyone?
Who asks?
So I think that was the point where they were supposed to all fail, like I said earlier, but then they came in with the light, and then the whole plan failed. But what I noticed interesting, that lady, I don't know what her name was, but to me she was actually quite annoying. The one that kept saying everything needs to be kept in order, the God Almighty train.
Oh, yes.
she took binoculars out and she actually enjoyed the show, kind of like the gladiator. You know, when the people who's killing and slaughtering each other, she's like, oh, okay.
Yes. It's
Entertainment point.
yes, I guess they also were quite programmed to not really look at the other guys like really humans as themselves. So they just couldn't. Phew, a lot of points. And can you share points about in reference of your lives? You had like preordained position that you felt, and then you realized your life can be much more, or you just walked through, for instance, Valentin?
Yeah, I firstly wanted to talk a bit about these fighters, these protectors of the elite.
Go on.
So it's symbolism to the current police, especially police, and they had blinders and access, and they were on the chain. So this is very symbolic because the police are very strict, like they cannot do everything they want, but they are like on the legal chain, and they have blinders because they are not allowed to actually see and interfere into what they see. They just have to follow orders. And then when they went into the tunnel, when the darkness fell, the police, like these fighters, had night vision, and this is symbolism to the technology that law enforcement officers use, and so they are in technological power over the common people, but of course they can be easily outnumbered if we all stand up together. And then the next point you wanted to ask me was what again?
Like a personal life reference, like this preordained life experience,
Yeah.
and then changing or realizing points?
Yeah. Firstly, I went with the flow, how especially my family positioned me in some position where I was working as a graphic designer, and I was not paying attention to anything that was going on in the world. But then after I experienced trauma within the relationships, within the family, with the partner, then I started to research the psychology of the people, how we behave, why are the problems in the world, what is the money actually, how all the global system works. And then, yeah, I discovered a lot of very interesting information.
Right. We just got a comment, Marzana. Hello guys, thank you for the discussion of the movie. I saw this movie yesterday and was in multi-dimensional points. This director Bong Joon-ho, who shows us. I really enjoyed the actions and conversation in this film. Cheers. All right, thanks. So Anna, can you go on?
Yes. To come from the other way around, no one had pushed me to a career path or anything. So I was all the time. I was thinking like I don't have a purpose. Like, what is my purpose? What do I want to do? So I spent a lot of my early college years not knowing what I wanted, and it was confusing because it took me a lot of time to like, okay, I had to step in and I had to decide what do I want. And to me, it was expected like, well, like Valentin was saying, I'll just go with the flow. But just going with the flow, it's not enough. Like, you need to see what's available, which would be going with the flow, like you see what's available, and then you actually have to make a decision. So as far as me, I tend to be indecisive for a lot of things. That's part of my process that I'm walking to make decisions, not to be indecisive. And to me, it was everything happens for a reason. So that was me placing just the blame on something else. If something happened to me, oh well, everything happens for a reason. There must be a reason why this happened. And so I had to get away from that and just be a decisive person, basically. Like I had to make decisions.
Yes. And how can you assist and support yourself with making decisions? I guess you research.
With making decisions, exploring what do I enjoy. That's how I decided I went into education, because I didn't want to do education. That was not my career path, so to speak, that I would have otherwise chosen. It was after the Desteni process and studying the Desteni that I decided I was going to go into education with the purpose of being able to be a voice for the children and to see what I can do within the education system. So then I was a decision, like I made a decision to do that.
Right. Valentin?
Yeah, after I started to research the global system and the religion and psychology and so on, I then also decided to work for myself, to be sole proprietor, and then eventually I discovered Desteni and this group when we research in detail how the whole existence works, what is the history, and of course what is the most important, what are the solutions. Because in the movie there were none of the solutions, of practical solutions shown, just the problems, and of course how came about is that the train derailed, everybody except two people died, and then they saw the polar bear, and I guess they followed the polar bear, or I don't know what. This could be like association to our research when we expose how the perspective about how animals perceived themselves, their bodies, how they have very great awareness and responsibility. They know their function in this world and how to collaborate with other living beings in order for everything to be in balance. So yes, we can learn a lot from animals because they do not need like this technology to protect us humans from like cold weather, like having to wear clothes, to have houses. Like polar bear does not need anything. It just has his natural skin coat, and that's it. It adapts to the environment. But we, the humans, are not very adaptable, as we can see. And we want to change our environment in order for environment to adapt to our needs. And this is actually the first point that has been exposed in the movie, where it was shown the airplanes that were spraying these chemicals. We know them as the word chemtrails, and this is weather modification program, and we want to constantly modify this planet somehow, but we are not aware of all the consequences, about the ripple effects, you know, this butterfly effect, as they call it. So we need to take it down, take a deep breath, to focus on ourselves, you know, and see more in depth about what is everything about.
Yeah. To me, like I was just saying, just to continue a little bit forward, we need to learn how to live with the planet, not change the planet to live with us.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, like the polar bears, they continue. They somehow they survived. I don't know how. I mean the chemtrails and everything, they survived. And also to me it showed that life continues even without a system. Like the animals didn't need a system to continue to live. And yeah, so once the train has crashed and the system has crashed, this will be the second time their system is crashing. The first time when they sprayed the chemtrails because of global warming. Yeah, the life is still there. Planet was up.
Yeah, it's interesting, and also considering the point that we can actually research a system what can benefits all. Like
Yes.
there are abundant resources, and everything can be, most of the things can be automated, but the whole point is within the human mind, I guess, because that's the most limited part of us.
Yeah. We need to make sure that wherever we create needs to be in accordance with the ecosystem on the planet.
Yes. Yes, and also I can just recommend the EQAFE, because EQAFE has a lot of animal interviews, and it's constantly mind-blowing. Just listen some animals giving perspectives what I guess human never heard before, and then we can just neglect these points, but actually if we would listen what they are representing and saying, it's common sense and can be applied practically.
Yeah.
I would also like to expose two symbolisms within
Yes.
this movie. When this genius who engineered the system, the electricity, and so on within the train woke up, the first thing he did was to light the cigarette. And
Yes.
it was especially said it was Marlboro Light. And this is firstly the product placement strategy, where the companies pay to subsidize the movie, to finance the movie,
Yeah.
in order to place their products. So the people are then motivated to buy them. And especially the cigarettes have a lot of product placements within almost every movie. And they are positioned in a very favorable way, like they are something like the biggest reward that the man can desire. Like, they get someone gets arrested and they are condemned to death by like shotting, and they ask him, what is your last wish? And he said, I want to smoke a cigarette. And it was the same in this movie. Or after sex, when the guy has a sex, what does he then do? He lights a cigarette. So this is very subliminal programming, and that drives the people to buy the products, and of course they are harmful to the human body. And then also the second point was when someone asked the guy who was very nervous, when did you last get laid? When did you last had sex? Like the nervousness is the result of not having sex in a long time, and sex is like this exhaust that then releases this energy of anger. This is also the negative propaganda about how to approach sex. So at Desteni we have very cool courses which can support everyone to release themselves from the addiction of drugs and cigarettes. And then we have also a very cool course where one teaches exactly how the sex operates, how the sexual energy is generated, and that we can direct this energy. We do not need to be slaves of these emotional bursts. We can take directive principle and enjoy sex as a pure, basic physical activity that is aligned with the natural expression of the human physical body and not directed by the energy of the mind.
Yes, it's quite important, I guess. And just returning back to the point when you mentioned that the product placement and how the whole movie industry is about stimulating the mind and giving ideas. And also it's suggested to understand how our mind reacts to movies and how we can prevent ourselves with, for instance, the writing self-forgiveness, to understanding what we react to and what are the specific points within our lives, what we give permission to, for instance, this kind of movies and films to stimulate us, and then suggest messages what we are not even aware of, because we are so busy with these reactions of the mind and these energies, and we identify ourselves with these energetic experiences. Meanwhile, there are just facts. What we, if just disregard, then we find ourselves within a situation where everything is systematized and the train is just going and it's not really considering each participant. So that's why it's suggested to investigate our own lives and our own responsibility and just stand up for the full picture. Because as we see the picture, I guess, as the main actor started to see the whole system from the bottom to top, we can see a holistic perspective, I guess, and then we can decide what would be really working.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I would like to add for the end the quote from
Yes.
the movie that revolutions did not work because no one, they did not take down the engine. But what is the engine? The engine is the mind consciousness system. We wanted to focus on the engine outside of us, but the global system is a reflection of our minds, of the mind consciousness system. So no one until now actually understood how this engine works, how the thoughts are produced, how the emotions are produced, and how to take down this engine, which is very subtle. It is energetic and it is hard to detect. So at Desteni, we research how this engine actually operates and how to take it down in order not to drive us in the madness, circling, making the same mistakes over and over again. How to stop it and how to live in perfect harmony with all living beings.
Yes, it's doable, obviously, if we investigate and walk the points and understanding our own preordained life design and question it, and without anger and without hate, how to assist and support ourselves and each other to change. Because within anger, we are just also slaves of the energy, and then when energy is off, then we remain the same. So as coming to the end of the discussion, Anna, would you like to add something more?
Yeah, well, you guys kind of like touched upon some of the things that I wanted to add.
Yes.
So from a personal perspective, what this movie can show to one is not to walk your process with anger, and to investigate your emotions and thoughts. to, of course, the writing down and the self-forgiveness, and take charge, take control of yourself. Instead of having the anger or the emotion or the thoughts controlling you and your actions. So it has to be self-directed, and that's what we do in the Desteni I process. We learn how to be self-directed. And then from a more societal point, because we're not alone, it's to realize that we shouldn't blame the system, because that would be just like blaming the train for the problems. But realizing that we are all part of the system, so we need to study it, investigate it, and find out what works, what doesn't work. And then the very important thing is to have a starting point of equality. And then with that starting point, we can make miracles happen.
Yes.
So, miracles.
Yes, because we never explored really practical equality. I mean, not talking about communism or hippies. They all touched cool points, but it didn't seem really practical in terms of the whole world system from the holistic perspective, because there was always separation or hierarchy or
blame. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the reason why they would have started, like, for example, maybe the hippies, I don't know much about them, but the reason why they would have started something like that would be because of the blaming of the system. Because that doesn't work for me, that's not fair, I don't want to have anything to do with it, but then not realizing that you do have something to do with it, because you are part of it, no matter where you go to hide. If you go hide in the mountains, you're still part of it.
Yes.
You're still dependent to eat.
Yes, the physical point is obviously equal to all
so
of
I
us.
think the physical point just needs to be redirected to equality, and that's when we can make sure that we don't create systems as such where we need to create anger and hatred and riots and war, which is just the result of inequality.
Yes. Valentin, last moment?
Yeah, basically the point is, do not just project your emotions and anger and try to destroy the system, because if the system is destroyed, then you are to show what is the alternative of the current system. If you want to put yourself on the leading positions, how will you lead? How will you lead as an example? So we need to first study the current system, how the history, how it all came about, and then prepare the alternative. Do not break down the current system unless you do not have another better option.
Great. Yes, I totally agree. So thanks, guys, for the discussion. I really enjoyed it. And next week, it will be on Friday. The movie's name will be After Traffen. I hope I spell it right. And thank you guys for participating and listening. And see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.